In my 78 years, I never imagined my own children would one day plot to end my life for money. Yet on a warm July afternoon on the beaches of Chicago, a stranger's message saved me from the unimaginable. My name is Joan Morales. 2 years earlier, in September of 2021, I had lost my beloved husband Robert after 52 years of marriage. His death left me adrift, and in the void that followed my ties to our 3 grown children, Sergio at 55, Christina at 52, and Raquel at 48, thinned until they felt like threads about to break. Sergio buried himself in his business. Christina disappeared into a whirl of luxury and parties. Raquel, my youngest, barely visited at all. So when they insisted we spend a Saturday together on the lakeshore, I felt a spark of the old closeness and agreed with genuine hope. That morning, the beach had been everything a Chicago summer promised: sunlight spilling across calm water, seagulls spinning lazy circles over families gathered under umbrellas. We had staked out a spot under a blue canopy near a bar, laughing over sandwiches and stories. For the first time in years, I felt included again, like a mother instead of a distant relative. I was still savoring that feeling when my phone buzzed at exactly 2:47 p.m. The number was unknown, but the text made my blood run cold. Leave quietly. Don't say anything to your children. I looked up from the screen. Sergio was talking animatedly about a new client. Christina adjusted her sunglasses and laughed at something Raquel had said. Nothing about them looked unusual, yet the message had named them specifically. My phone vibrated again. It's urgent. Your life depends on it. I'm in the parking lot. Red car. Trust me. I have always been cautious, but I have also trusted my instincts. And my instincts were screaming that something was very wrong. I feel a little dizzy, I said aloud, rising slowly from my lounge chair. I think it's too much sun. I'll take a short walk. Do you want me to come with you? Mom, Sergio asked, half rising. No. I just need to cool off, I answered with a smile I hoped looked natural. Christina called after me. Be careful, Mom, don't go too far. Her tone full of concern that might have been genuine or something else. I walked toward the parking lot as casually as I could manage my mind racing. Who knew we were here? Who would warn me about my own children? Then I saw the red Ford Focus. A woman stood beside it, brown hair tied back in a ponytail, eyes flicking nervously between me and the beach. Nora, I whispered. Nora Jimenez had worked as a housekeeper in Sergio's home for 8 years. She was discreet, reliable, a single mother to an 8-year-old named Valerie. I had always treated her with respect, even making sure Sergio paid her fairly. Seeing her here with fear etched into her face made my stomach lurch. Mrs. Morales, she said quickly, thank you for coming. I know this seems strange, but your life is in danger. The sound of the waves and children's laughter faded. What are you talking about? I asked. We can't talk here, she urged. Please get in the car. I have something to show you. For 8 years, Nora had never given me reason to doubt her honesty. If she was risking her job to warn me, it had to be serious. I slid into the passenger seat and she drove off toward a quieter area, gripping the wheel with white knuckles. What I'm about to tell you will be hard to believe, she began, but your children are planning to hurt you. The words struck like a hammer. My children. That's impossible. Nora parked in a deserted industrial lot and pulled out her phone with trembling hands. Yesterday, while cleaning Sergio's office, I found papers that made me suspicious. I took pictures. She swiped through images. The first was a bank document bearing my signature dated July 8th, just a week ago. Yes, that's my handwriting, I murmured. They told me those were routine insurance forms at a barbecue. They weren't, she said grimly, zooming in. It's a transfer authorization for $950,000, your entire savings. My heart stuttered. This can't be real. There's more. She showed a power of attorney giving Sergio full control of my assets and a draft will, leaving everything to my 3 children, eliminating the charitable donations I had planned. I felt faint. I remember feeling so tired that day, I whispered. I blamed it on the heat and the wine. Nora produced another photo, a small bottle labeled bromazepam 6 milligrams, along with traces of an unmarked liquid. "I found this in Sergio's kitchen," she said. "I think they drugged you to get your signature." Pieces clicked together: the insistent lunch, the drowsiness, my uncharacteristic trust in documents I barely skimmed. "They drugged me," I said, more to myself than to her. "That's only part of it," Nora continued. "Last night I overheard Sergio on the phone. He owes $380,000 to dangerous people, illegal lenders. He told them he'd have access to the money soon. When he mentioned your name, I knew I had to warn you." I gripped the dashboard. "Why would they still need me if they have the papers?" "Because the bank requires you to be present for large transfers," she said. "And I heard Christina this morning mention a plan B, in case you became a problem, words like accident stairs, quick inheritance." My breath came in short bursts. My own children weren't just trying to steal from me. They were willing to kill me. "That's why I called the police last night," Nora said. "Inspector Thomas Grant is in charge. They're already preparing a search of your house. He told me to warn you discreetly. We need to go to the station now for your statement and a blood test." I stared at her, overwhelmed by terror and gratitude. "You risked everything to save me. You treated me with dignity," she said simply. "I couldn't let them hurt you." As she drove us toward the police station, one question echoed in my mind like a drumbeat. How had my family come to this? And what else were they willing to do to get my money? The drive to the police station took only 15 minutes but felt like an eternity. Nora's eyes flicked constantly to the rearview mirror, her knuckles pale against the steering wheel. I sat rigidly, clutching my purse as though it might anchor me to reality. Outside, Chicago's skyline shimmered in the late afternoon haze, but the city I'd known all my life suddenly looked foreign, hostile, a place where my own children had plotted my death. We pulled into the back lot of the precinct, where a uniformed officer guided us inside. Nora led me through a maze of hallways until we reached an office with white walls, a map of the city pinned beside framed certificates, and two computers humming softly. Behind the desk sat Inspector Thomas Grant, a man of about 50 with a steady, unflinching gaze. He rose as we entered, extending his hand with a firmness that reassured me more than any words could have. "Mrs. Morales," he said, "we've been expecting you. Miss Jimenez has been extremely helpful. Please sit." I lowered myself into the chair, my heart pounding so hard I feared it might betray me. The inspector's calm, measured tone made me feel simultaneously safe and exposed. "Before we take your statement," he said, "our forensic team needs to run urgent medical tests. If controlled substances were administered to you, we must document them immediately." A technician entered, carrying a professional case. I rolled up my sleeve without protest as he drew blood, clipped a strand of my hair, and ran through a basic exam. "Bromazepam can be detected in blood for several days," the inspector explained. "Some metabolites persist in hair for months. We'll know soon what was in your system." Nora remained at my side, her presence steadying me. "I've seen the photos Miss Jimenez provided." The inspector continued, glancing at the file on his desk. "We've already secured warrants to search your children's residences and freeze their bank accounts. Teams are executing those searches now while they're still at the beach." His efficiency astonished me. In less than 24 hours, Nora's call had triggered a full-scale operation. "What will happen when my children return and find the police in their homes?" I asked softly. "We've timed the searches to minimize confrontation," he replied. "But we need your help with a crucial step. The documents and photos give us a strong case, but a good lawyer might argue you signed them willingly. Recorded confessions would make the case ironclad. We're proposing a controlled operation tonight." Controlled operation? The words tasted strange in my mouth. "You'd return to Sergio's house as if nothing happened," he said, leaning forward. "We'd equip you with hidden recording devices. If your children admit their plan in conversation, we'll have irrefutable evidence of fraud and attempted murder." My stomach twisted. The thought of going back into that house, smiling at faces I now saw as predators, terrified me. "Isn't there another way?" "Time is not on our side," he said gently. "They're under extreme pressure from violent lenders. If they don't get the money in the next few days, they could act in desperation. This is the safest moment to act with police surrounding you. Nora touched my arm. I'll be there, Mrs. Morales. I won't let anything happen to you. I can make sure you don't drink or eat anything they offer. The inspector nodded. She'll be our official collaborator. We'll have rapid response units within a 2-block radius. If you press this device, he held up something that looked like a pen, we'll intervene in under 90 seconds. I stared at the pen. 90 seconds could be the difference between life and death. Yet I also felt a flicker of resolve. For 2 years, my grief had left me passive dependent. Now, if I didn't act, I might be dead within days. All right, I said finally. But if anything goes wrong, you intervene immediately. No waiting for the perfect recording. You have my word, the inspector replied. He led us to a meeting room where a young sergeant with an athletic build laid out several devices on the table. Mrs. Morales, the sergeant, explained this button microphone records audio within 15 feet. This GPS transmitter in your belt lets us track you in real time. And this, he handed me a pair of glasses, contains a micro camera streaming directly to our command center. We'll see what you see. Officer Ruiz, a communications expert, showed Nora a modified cell phone. Press 1 for all clear, 2 for caution, 3 for immediate intervention. I ran my fingers over the devices, feeling their tiny weight like pebbles in my palm. They were my lifeline, and also my bait. The inspector unfolded aerial photographs of Sergio's neighborhood marking surveillance points. We'll have 6 agents in 3 unmarked vehicles, a delivery van across from the park, a car at the corner, and a motorcycle on the back street. All exits covered, Nora added quietly. I'll tell them you felt unwell at the beach and insisted on coming here so they could take care of you. They know my discretion, they won't suspect. What kind of conversation should I have? I asked. Express worries about your will or your savings, the sergeant suggested. If they think you're confused or second-guessing documents, they'll try to reassure you. That's when we get admissions. I nodded slowly. And if they suspect? Stay calm. Press the device. We'll do the rest, the inspector said. As they fitted me with the button mic and belt transmitter, a mix of terror and determination settled in my chest. I had raised my children to believe in honesty and loyalty. Now I was preparing to help send them to prison. It was 7:15 p.m. when the final checks were complete. You and Miss Jimenez will arrive at Sergio's house at 8:00 p.m. Exactly, the inspector said. We'll be ready. I adjusted the glasses, feeling their unfamiliar weight. In less than an hour, I would face my children not as their mother, but as the witness to their betrayal. At exactly 8:00 p.m., Nora slowed her car in front of Sergio's 2-story brick house, its manicured garden glowing under porch lights. On any other night, the warm glow spilling from the living room would have felt welcoming. Tonight, it looked like the stage for a deadly play. My heart pounded so violently I feared the hidden microphone would catch its rhythm. I touched the emergency pen in my pocket, then adjusted the glasses with the micro camera. Remember, Nora whispered, I handle everything you eat or drink. Act natural. Let them talk. The door opened before we rang. Sergio appeared, arms-wide voice loaded with false relief. Mom, thank God you're okay. We were worried when you disappeared from the beach. He hugged me, the gesture once comforting, now alien, almost predatory. Nora found me dizzy near the parking lot, I said, reciting the script. I felt confused. Probably too much sun for someone my age. Christina emerged from the kitchen, drying her hands on a floral apron. Mom, you scared us. Raquel was about to call hospitals. She came closer, examining my face with an expression that might have been medical concern or careful study. Raquel entered from the hallway, eyes wide, tone syrupy. Are you feeling better? Do you need a doctor? I'm fine, sweetheart. Just a little rest and something cool to drink, I replied, letting them guide me into the living room. Inside, the house displayed the life they had built on loans: Italian leather sofa, giant screen TV, expensive artwork. Each object felt like a receipt for betrayal. Sergio remained standing, arms crossed, as Christina sat to my right and Raquel to my left. Nora, please bring some mineral water, Sergio said in a casual tone that held a tremor. Of course, Mr. Sergio, Nora answered, heading to the kitchen to open a sealed bottle. Sergio began. Mom, we've been thinking about your finances. Managing so much at your age must be stressful. I tilted my head. Why do you bring that up now? Christina leaned in with a soothing smile. We know Dad handled a lot of paperwork. Without him, it must feel overwhelming. It's true some things have gotten complicated, I admitted, echoing the police's advice. Lately, I've been confused about some documents I remember signing. All three exchanged quick glances. Sergio cleared his throat. What kind of documents, Mom? I remember signing papers a week ago at the family lunch, I said softly. But I can't recall what they were for. Raquel leaned closer, voice syrupy sweet. Those were just update forms for your health insurance. Nothing important. But there were large numbers involved? I added, feigning puzzled concern. Sergio sat in the armchair across from me, posture meant to look relaxed but tight with tension. Maybe it's time for a simpler system to manage your finances. Something that takes the pressure off you. Nora returned with the water, opening the bottle in front of me and pouring it carefully. I took a slow sip, watching their faces. What kind of system? Christina brightened. We could set up a joint account where one of us handles daily expenses. You'd still own everything. A joint account. Wouldn't I lose control? Not at all, Raquel said with practiced sweetness. It would just help with daily management. Sergio added, considering your episode today, it might be wise to have contingencies for your safety. What contingencies? If you had another episode of confusion or your health worsened, someone you trust could pay for medication or emergencies, Christina said. The conversation unfolded exactly as the police had predicted. My children were wrapping poison in soft words. How much money would you keep in that joint account? I asked. Sergio glanced at his sisters. To be safe, maybe most of your savings. Most of it, we're talking about $950,000. The silence was thunderous. Mom, how do you know that figure? Raquel asked, a crack in her composure. I checked my bank statements last week after our lunch when I felt so sleepy. Some movements didn't look familiar. Christina's fingers drummed nervously on the cushion. Sometimes banks process transactions late. You might see movements from previous authorizations. Transactions of hundreds of thousands, I pressed. Sergio stood and walked to the window, back to me. Mom, maybe there's a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding about amounts that could solve very serious financial problems. Christina shifted restlessly. At your age, it's normal to forget what you signed. My age? You all seem to know more about my finances than I do, I said, letting a hint of suspicion into my voice. They exchanged glances again, a silent debate flashing in their eyes. Finally, Sergio turned jaw tight. Mom, we need to be honest. We've had financial problems. What kind of problems? Raquel hesitated, then blurted, loans for houses, cars, investments, debts. How much? A considerable amount, Sergio muttered. Hundreds of thousands. Yes, Christina whispered. Almost 400,000. The impact of my question was immediate. Pale faces, gasps, trembling hands. How do you know that exact figure? Sergio asked, voice thin. Because it's on transfer documents bearing my signature. A signature I don't remember making, I said calmly. Raquel's voice cracked. Then you know we're desperate. Desperate to what extent? Sergio began pacing. Mom, the people we owe aren't banks. What does that mean? It means if we don't pay soon, the consequences go beyond credit problems, Christina said, tears rising. What kind of consequences? Raquel's whisper was a sob. They threatened us. They said if we don't pay by Thursday, they'll start using persuasive methods. Who threatened you? Sergio stared out the window. A man named Miguel Fernandez. But everyone calls him Miguel the Blade. The name confirmed everything the police had told me. And what did this Miguel demand? The full $380,000 plus interest by the day after tomorrow, Sergio answered. And if you can't pay, silence. Heavy, resigned, like a verdict they'd already accepted. Mom, Raquel said finally. Miguel told us we'd have to secure the payment another way. What other way specifically? Sergio looked me in the eyes, desperation and shame mingling. At your age, a domestic accident wouldn't be suspicious. You've already planned this accident, I said quietly. Christina's face crumpled. We researched medications to simulate a heart problem. Raquel wiped her cheeks. I talked to a funeral home about rapid cremation. And you, Sergio, I'd be with you to make sure it looked natural, he said, voice flat. When was this accident supposed to happen? Tomorrow, Christina whispered. My children sat before me, confessing their plan to drug me, forge my signature, and kill me for my savings. The confession hung in the air like a storm cloud. For a moment, all I heard was the ticking of the wall clock, its hands frozen at 9:15 p.m. My children stared at me with faces twisted by fear, guilt, and desperation. The police had their evidence now, yet I had to keep my composure a little longer. My children, I said softly. Do you understand what you're telling me? You're describing the premeditated murder of your own mother. Christina covered her face with trembling hands. Raquel sobbed openly. Sergio sat rigidly, his jaw clenched, eyes darting as though seeking an escape. Mom, we didn't want to think about it, Sergio said hoarsely. But Miguel left us no choice. If we don't pay, he'll kill us, and then come for you anyway. Their tears no longer moved me. They weren't tears of remorse, but of self-pity. Inside, a strange calm spread through me the way still water mirrors the sky before a hurricane. I leaned back, letting my voice stay steady. What you've just confessed is one of the most serious crimes under the law. Do you understand that? Sergio flinched. Mom, why are you talking like a judge? Like a police officer? I realized my vocabulary had shifted without thinking. After spending the afternoon with investigators, I had absorbed their language. Christina stood, her eyes narrowing. Mom, you're acting strange. You're too calm. You're not crying. You're not shouting. That's not you. Raquel edged closer, scanning my face. Mom, there's something different about you since you got here. The room's tension thickened. Their survival instincts were sharpening suspicion, replacing guilt. Different in what way, I asked, trying to return to my role of confused mother. Normally, after hearing something like this, you'd be hysterical, Sergio said, approaching me with cautious steps. But you're controlled, too controlled. Nora intervened from the kitchen, her voice carefully casual. Mrs. Morales has been very upset since the episode at the beach. Maybe the shock made her react differently. Christina's eyes flicked to Nora. Shock. Nora, you found my mother at the beach, right? Exactly where? I found her near the parking lot, Nora answered steadily. She seemed disoriented and worried about her blood pressure. Raquel's gaze sharpened. Why were you at the beach, Nora? It's supposed to be your day off. You always spend Saturdays with Valerie. I took Valerie to the beach, Nora said, but her voice wavered slightly. Sergio moved closer to me, studying me with a predator's focus. Mom, something doesn't add up. You vanish from the beach. You return hours later with Nora, who just happens to be there. Now you're interrogating us about our debts using legal terms. You react to our confession like an investigator. And he reached out suddenly, fingers brushing my shirt. You're wearing a different blouse than you had this morning. My heart skipped. During the preparation at the station, I had changed shirts to fit the devices. That tiny detail now threatened everything. I changed because the other was sweaty from the sun, I said, forcing a weak smile. Where did you get this new shirt? I don't recognize it. Christina pressed, voice rising. Before I could answer, Sergio's hand slid down my blouse, patting expertly. There's something hard here, like a button. His fingers closed on the hidden microphone. With a violent jerk, he ripped it out, holding it aloft. It's a microphone, he shouted, fury exploding. She's recording us. Christina lunged for my glasses, ripping them off. And this looks like a camera. Raquel spun on Nora, eyes blazing. You warned her. You set us up. Mrs. Raquel, please. Nora backed against the wall, hands raised. Sergio hurled the microphone to the floor, crushing it under his shoe. Mom, you've destroyed your own family. You've condemned us all. At that instant, as if cued by his words, both the front and back doors crashed open simultaneously. Police down on the ground, armed officers flooded in, weapons, trained voices commanding. The living room erupted in chaos. Sergio froze mid-step. Christina shrieked. Raquel stumbled backward as two officers pinned her arms. "Joan, are you hurt?" Inspector Grant appeared among the first eyes scanning me. "I'm fine," I said, breathless, watching my children forced to the floor. Mom, Sergio screamed as cuffs locked around his wrists. "You betrayed us. We're your family. You were my family until you decided to murder me for money," I replied, my voice steady, despite the tears stinging my eyes. Mrs. Morales, Officer Ruiz called from the doorway. "Miguel the Blade and his associates are in custody. We found documentation confirming the threats." Christina sobbed hysterically as she was lifted from the floor. "Mom, we were your children. How could you do this?" "You were my children until you plotted my death," I said. Raquel glared at me as officers escorted her out. "You'll regret this. Family protects each other." "Family doesn't poison their mother," I answered. Nora stepped to my side, trembling. Sergeant Lopez approached her. "Miss Jimenez, your courage saved a life and dismantled a criminal network. You'll have protection until the legal process is over." I stood in the wreckage of the living room, heart hammering, as my children were led away in separate police vehicles. Relief mingled with devastation. I had saved my life, but lost my family forever. The following months were a blur of court dates, statements, and revelations. On August 15, 2023, the district attorney filed formal charges against Sergio, Christina, and Raquel, attempted first-degree murder, conspiracy, and fraudulent administration of another's assets. In the county courthouse's dark-paneled chamber, I testified against my own children as they sat in prison uniforms, their faces flickering between shame and resentment. The prosecutor, Linda Carmen, presented the devastating recordings from that night. Jury members shuddered hearing my children calmly plan my death. Defense lawyers argued duress and family tragedy, but the evidence was overwhelming: audio, video, WhatsApp messages, and forensic proof of the drugs in my blood. Nora testified too, recounting each risk she took to warn me. Mrs. Morales was the only person who treated me with dignity, she told the jury, voice steady. I couldn't let her be murdered by her own family. Her words moved even the sternest faces in the room. I sat through it all, heartbroken but resolute. Forgiveness in my heart didn't erase the need for justice. The courtroom was silent the morning the verdicts were read. Sunlight streamed through high windows, catching on the dark wood paneling like molten gold. My children sat at the defense table in identical uniforms, hands clasped, eyes down. When the presiding judge announced the unanimous guilty verdicts, attempted first-degree murder, conspiracy, fraudulent administration of another's assets, and unlawful administration of controlled substances, the words echoed like bells tolling the end of a long, harrowing chapter. Each was sentenced to 15 years in prison with no parole before 10 years served. Miguel the Blade Fernandez received 18 years for leading the criminal organization, his associates 12 each, for aggravated extortion and threats. Relief washed over me, yet it was braided with grief. My children were gone, not physically, but morally, spiritually. When Sergio shouted from the defendant's box, "Mom, one day, you'll regret this. We're your only family," I turned to him one last time. "My family died the night you decided to kill me," I said quietly. "The criminals going to prison today just happened to have my children's names." The months after the trial were strangely still. For the first time in years, I could sleep without fear, open my mail without dread, answer the phone without bracing for manipulation. In January 2024, I began to rebuild my life from the ashes of betrayal. The first decision I made was to legally formalize the new bonds that had saved me. On February 15th, accompanied by my lawyer, I created a family trust that guaranteed Nora and her daughter Valerie a secure future, a full educational fund for Valerie from primary school through postgraduate study, and a lifelong security fund for Nora. When I handed her the papers, Nora's eyes filled with tears. "Mrs. Morales, this is too generous. We never expected anything." "That's exactly why you deserve it," I said, hugging her. "You saved my life, expecting nothing. Now I want to make sure you have the opportunities my biological children squandered." Valerie, now 9, began calling me Grandma Joan without prompting. Her bright curiosity and kind heart became a daily reminder that family can be chosen. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I took her to piano lessons. On Saturdays, we swam together at the yacht club. On Sundays after church, we visited museums or parks talking about her dreams. "I want to be a doctor like the one who took care of Mom when I was sick," she told me one spring afternoon. "But I also love music. Can I be both?" "Valerie," I said, handing her an ice cream, "you can be anything your heart and hard work allow. This trust will give you opportunities many children don't have, but it's your choices and dedication that will make them real." My spiritual life deepened too. Father Anthony, who had guided me after Robert's death, encouraged me to use my experience to help others. We developed the Rose Center for Senior Support, named in my husband's memory. By May 2024, I had acquired a 3-story building near the parish and spent 4 months renovating it into a warm, functional haven. It offered free legal advice, psychological counseling, financial protection workshops, and a 24-hour hotline for seniors facing abuse or manipulation. Nora became the center's first administrative director. Within weeks, she reported, "We've already had 17 calls. 3 cases as serious as yours." The realization that my ordeal was not unique but part of a larger pattern drove me to expand our programs, hire more social workers, and partner with law firms specializing in elder protection. During this time, I received dozens of letters from my children in prison, pleas for forgiveness, promises of change, veiled threats about my future loneliness. I read them all, but never replied, not out of bitterness but clarity. Their words lacked true accountability. They justified, minimized, or shifted blame. In October 2024, Christina tried to manipulate me by invoking Robert's memory. "Mom, Dad would be devastated if he knew you'd rejected your children. He always believed in forgiveness." That letter hurt the most. I wrote not to her, but to the prison chaplain, "I have forgiven my children in my heart to free my soul from resentment." But forgiveness does not erase legal consequences, nor does it require me to restore relationships with people who proved willing to commit murder for financial gain. By December 2024, 3 years after Robert's death, my life had transformed. We held a celebration at the Rose Center to mark its first 4 months. We had already helped 112 seniors, prevented at least 6 serious cases of family financial abuse, and provided legal and emotional support to dozens more. Valerie, now 10, stood at my side holding a bouquet. Nora introduced me to the crowd as the woman who turned her darkest day into a beacon for others. Looking out at the audience, faces lined with age but lit by hope, I felt something I hadn't in years: peace. My children's betrayal had nearly destroyed me, but it also stripped away illusions and showed me where true loyalty lives. I had learned that family is not only blood, it is the people who protect you when you're most vulnerable, who act with integrity even when no one is watching. As the crowd applauded, I squeezed Valerie's hand. "Some grandparents are lucky enough to choose their grandchildren," I whispered. "Some grandchildren are lucky enough to choose their grandparents. We chose each other." That night, writing in my journal, I summed up the lesson of my ordeal: love, without boundaries, can become a weapon in the wrong hands. To protect others, you sometimes have to choose justice over blood. Forgiveness frees your heart, but boundaries protect your life. If my story moved you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. Like this video if it gave you hope, subscribe to our channel for more real stories, and tell us in the comments what lessons you've learned about family and trust. Together we can shine a light on hidden dangers and help others find safety and strength.